Cain is deified. The clans tell tales of him. Few know the truth. He was mortal once, as were we all. However, his contempt for humanity drove him to create me and my brethren. I am Raziel, firstborn of his lieutenants. I have served Cain a millennium. The gift continued to evolve. We became less human and more divine. Cain would enter the state of change and emerge with a new gift. Some years after the Master, our evolution would follow, until I had the honor of surpassing my Lord. For my transgression, I earned a new kind of reward. Agony. There was only one possible outcome: my eternal damnation. Raziel was to suffer the fate of traitors and weaklings, to burn forever in the bowels of the lake of the dead.
Cast him in.
Tumbling, burning with white-hot fire, I plunged into the depths of the abyss. Unspeakable pain, relentless agony. Time ceased to exist. Only this torture and a deepening hatred of the hypocrisy that damned me to this hell. An eternity passed, and my torment receded, bringing me back from the precipice of madness. The descent had destroyed me, and yet I lived.
Raziel, you are worthy. I know you, Raziel. You are worthy.
What madness is this? What pitiful form is this that I have come to inhabit? Death would be a release next to this travesty.
You did not survive the abyss, Raziel. I have only spared you from total dissolution.
I would choose oblivion over this existence.
The choice is not yours.
I am destroyed.
You are reborn. The birth of one of Cain's abominations traps the essence of life. It is this soul that animates the corpse you lived in. And that, Raziel, is the demise of Nosghoth. There is no balance. The souls of the dead remain trapped. I cannot spin them in the wheel of fate. They cannot complete their destinies. Redeem yourself. Or if you prefer, avenge yourself. Settle your dispute with Cain. Destroy him and your brethren. Free their souls and let the wheel of fate churn again. Use your hatred to read their souls. I can make it possible. Become my soul Reaver, my angel of death.
Raziel.
Kain!
The Abyss has been unkind.
Damn you, Kain! You are not God! This act of genocide is unconscionable! Conscience? You dare to speak to me of conscience? Only when you have felt the full gravity of choice should you dare question my judgment. Your lifespan is a flicker compared to the mass of doubt and regret that I have borne. To know that the fate of the world hangs dependent on the advisedness of my every deed? Can you even begin to conceive what action you would take in my position?
I would choose integrity, Kain. The Soul Reaver, Kain's ancient blade, older than any of us and 1,000 times more deadly. For all our bravado, we knew what it meant when Kain drew the Soul Reaver in anger. It meant you were dead.
The blade is vanquished. So it unfolds. And we are a step closer to our destinies.
From this moment and ever afterward, you and this blade are inextricably bound. Soul Reaver and Reaver of Souls, your destinies are intertwined. By destroying the sword, you have liberated it from its corporeal prison and restored it to its true form, a wraith blade, its energy unbound. No longer a physical blade, it can only manifest itself in the material realm when your strength is fully restored. Once manifest, it will sustain you.
What are you, little soul? Another of Kain's creatures come to taunt this bound spectre.
I did not intend to disturb your rest.
Rest. A body is needed for sleep. Flesh and bones are required to recline. No, child. All I may do is watch and remember, ceaselessly conscious as this wretched world's history unfurls. Ghastly past, insufferable future, are they one and the same? Am I always here?
How have you come to haunt these pillars?
Kain refused the sacrifice. The pillar of balance, corrupted to its core, stands as a monument to his blind ambition. Now these pillars serve only to bind me here, my prison and eternal home, thanks to the avarice of your master, Kain.
That bastard can claim no allegiance from me.
Then we share a common foe, Raziel. Return here when you have need. Ariel remembers what others have forgotten.
At last. I must say I'm disappointed in your progress. I imagined you'd be here sooner. Tell me, did it trouble you to murder your brothers?
Did it trouble you when you ordered me into the abyss?
Eternity is relentless, Raziel. When I first stole into this chamber centuries ago, I did not fathom the true power of knowledge. To know the future, Raziel. To see its paths and streams tracing out into the infinite. As a man, I could never contain such forbidden truths. But each of us is so much more than we once were. Do you not feel with all your soul how we have become like gods? As such, are we not indivisible? As long as a single one of us stands, we are legion. Our futures are predestined. Mobius foretold mine eons ago. We each play out the parts fate has written for us. Free will is an illusion.
I found the tomb of Sarafan, Kain. How could you profane a priest by turning him into a vampire?
How could I not? One must keep his friends close, Raziel, and his enemies even closer. Who better to serve me than those whose passion transcends all notions of good and evil?
The Sarafan were saviors, defending Nosgota from the corruption that we represent. My eyes are opened, Kain. I find no nobility in the unlife you rudely forced on my unwilling corpse.
You may have uncovered your past, but you know nothing of it. You think the Sarafan were noble, altruistic? Oh, don't be simple. Their agenda was the same as ours. You nearly had me, Raziel. But this is not where or how it ends. Fate promises more twists before this drama unfolds completely.
Redeemer and destroyer, pawn and messiah. Welcome, time-span soul. Welcome to your destiny. Where am I? Is the usual question. In your case, when might be more apt.
Very well, you old snake. If you'd prefer I use my bare hands...
This is completely unexpected. This orb disables our vampire enemies, leaving them helpless and incapacitated. Strangely, it seems to have the same effect on that peculiar weapon of yours. But you must believe me. I mean you no harm.
You can drop the benevolent facade, Mobius. I know who and what you are. I should kill you where you stand.
Perhaps you should, my boy. But you don't.
Are you so certain of that, Mobius?
My role as Time Guardian affords me a certain level of omniscience, Raziel. No, you don't kill me. That honor belongs to your maker, Kain, some 30 years from now.
Ah, you two are a pair. You're just as fatalistic as he is.
Death comes for us all, Raziel. It's just a matter of time.
Is this the vampire Vorador?
Yes. The scourge of the circle, the most depraved and decadent example of his whole degenerate race. He slaughtered 6 of my fellow guardians as they cowered defenseless in this room.
And you somehow survived this massacre?
I and 2 others. The circle was devastated. Only we three were spared.
How convenient. You'll forgive me if I don't naively devour every scrap of information you toss me. You have a reputation for deceit.
And who has slandered me so? Your malefactor, Kain? The one who betrayed and destroyed you? Our common enemy? Consider the source before you judge me too harshly. We'll forget about rekindling our old friendship then. But consider an alliance based on our common ground. We both want Kain dead. I can help you do it.
You don't want to meddle in this, old man. I know all about your sordid little schemes, but you're simply out of your depth on this one.
You underestimate me, Raziel. Let me show you. Even now, Kain is lying in wait for you, unaware that I've snatched you out of the time stream and brought you here to me. See how he lingers at the very pillars he is destined to destroy, foolishly confident that he has eluded your grasp.
The pillars are still standing in this time.
Yes, Raziel. They are the embodiment of the divine force which preserves the life of our world. We who serve the pillars maintain their delicate balance, and Kain is destined to be the fulcrum upon which that balance turns. I believe you have already endured the wasteland wrought by his terrible selfish decision. Kain's very existence is a cancer upon this world. As long as he lives, all of Nosgota is in peril. You may never again be human, Raziel. But you can re-embrace the essence of your humanity and the nobility of your Sarafan heritage. Go to him, Raziel, and end this.
These vampires had nothing in common with the deranged jackals I left behind in Kain's derelict empire. They seemed to retain much of their former humanity. And while I still believed that vampirism was a plague and had to be wiped out, there was nothing noble or righteous in this crusade. This was simply ruthless persecution. The pillars of Nosgota, pristine, whole, and uncorrupted. I had never beheld them in this undefiled state, yet something profound and indelible resonated within me at the sight. And there, waiting at the very heart of the pillars, was the canker that was destined to destroy them.
I know you're there, Raziel.
Mobius led me to you, Kain, though I might have guessed you'd meet me here.
And if Mobius told you I was hidden on the underside of hell, would you throw yourself into oblivion to pursue me? Mobius trawls for the ignorant and unwary, hauling his gasping prey from the streams of their destinies. Stay out of his net, Raziel.
Spare me your elaborate metaphors, Kain. I have pursued you here for one purpose. You will pay for your betrayal, and balance will thus be restored to Nosgota.
And whose will is satisfied then? The will of Raziel or Mobius?
Would I be better manipulated by you, Kain? Now, turn and face me. The chase is over.
This isn't a chase, Raziel. We are merely passengers on the wheel of destiny, describing a perfect circle to this point. We've been brought here for a reason. I've seen the beginning and the end of our story, however, and the tale is crude and ill-conceived. We must rewrite the ending of it. You and I. All I ask is that you listen. This is the sublime moment of our undoing, Raziel. The ineffable fulcrum upon which swings the entirety of our history. This is where all of Nosgota is betrayed. In this instant, Area, the balance guardian, is murdered by dark forces bent on overthrowing the pillars. Her spirit is just now tearing free, lost in the ether, trying to find its way here. You have already seen how she comes to haunt these pillars.
bound here by your refusal to die. You are the reason this land becomes diseased. As long as you remain alive, you condemn Nosgoth to an eternity of decay.
Be still, Raziel. See this. As Ariel dies, I am being born to take her place as Balance Guardian. Such is my destiny.
My God.
The repercussions of Ariel's assassination were expertly calculated. The entire circle descends into madness, and I am tainted at the moment of my birth, instantly rendered incapable of fulfilling the role destiny has prepared for me. 30 years hence, I am presented with a dilemma. Let's call it a two-sided coin. If the coin falls one way, I sacrifice myself and thus restore the pillars. But as the last surviving vampire in Nosgoth, this would mean the annihilation of our species. Mobius made sure of that. If the coin lands on the reverse, I refuse the sacrifice and thus doom the pillars to an eternity of collapse. Either way, the game is rigged.
We agree then that the pillars are crucial and must be restored.
Yes, Raziel. And that's why we've come full circle to this place.
So after all this, you make my case for me. To end this stalemate, you must die so that new guardians can be born.
Pillars don't belong to them, Raziel. They belong to us.
Your arrogance is boundless, Kain.
There's a third option. A monumental secret, hidden in your very presence here. But it's a secret you have to discover for yourself. Unearth your destiny, Raziel. It's all laid out for you here.
You said it yourself, Kain. There are only two sides to your coin.
Apparently so. But suppose you throw a coin enough times. Suppose one day it lands on its edge.
I didn't know what impulse stayed my hand, why I had so willingly allowed Kain to escape me when I had pursued him for so long. I had no reason to trust Kain after he had valued me so little, and yet I found myself intrigued by his words. I had been too cruelly used to so gullibly play his pawn, but if this world truly had secrets to divulge, I was determined to expose them. From the look of it, this door had been sealed for centuries. I began to realize it was no mere coincidence that I found myself standing here, beneath this winged figure with blue skin and cloven hands so like my own, and bearing this unique key. And so it was with a sense of gravity and trepidation that I unsealed that ancient door and crossed the threshold. As I entered the chamber, I sensed that it had been sealed for hundreds, perhaps thousands of years. And while this room was clearly built when the pillars were erected, I knew that no human hand could have shaped this place, and that perhaps it had never been seen by human eyes. The surrounding murals depicted a winged race, their features so like my own, but beautiful, where mine were grotesque, and angelic, while mine were demonic. I tried to decipher these images. A great war, but with combatants like none I had ever seen. The pillars, raised by this winged race, who thus defeated their adversaries. The winged beings again, writhing in agony, apparently afflicted with the same bloodthirst I had so recently suffered. And throughout the chamber, inscribed everywhere, images of the Reaver itself. Was this what Kain had urged me to discover? I wondered.
Lies, Raziel. Do not be deceived.
My ancient benefactor. And I dared to hope we had parted ways forever. Your silence was refreshing, but it lasted. No doubt you have a conveniently inexpressible reason for your presence here.
Do not be insolent, Raziel. I am eternally present here and everywhere, now and always. I am the still center of the turning wheel, the hub of this world's destiny.
But perhaps not so omnipotent as you'd have me believe. Your hold on me appears to be tenuous. I no longer seem to need you. Yet I'm guessing you still need me.
This impudence is unworthy of you, Raziel. Do not forget that you have a task to fulfill here. You are indebted to me.
Indebted? You would have me show gratitude for a gift I didn't ask to be bestowed. Do you forget that you forced me to inhabit this vile carcass?
I restored you to yourself, Raziel. It was Kain who destroyed you. The very enemy you've just let slip through your grasp. Do not fail me, my servant.
I serve no one. Not you, not Kain, and not your lackey Mobius.
Mobius is my good servant. I have many.
And if I tell Mobius that he's worshipping a giant squid, do you think his faith will falter?
You have grown willful, Raziel. But beware. To embrace a serpent is to invite poison into your heart. Kain is a sinuous beast. He will seduce and deceive you. You pride yourself on your free will, yet you let that degenerate deter your resolve.
I harbor no illusions about his integrity, nor anyone else's. In fact, I am beset by manipulation on all sides. I merely seek the truth.
You're a ragged excuse for a savior.
Vorador.
I see my reputation precedes me. I've been watching you since you emerged from that accursed stronghold. Strange that your arrival coincides with the corruption of the Pillars. But I'm wondering, are you the instrument of the Pillars' destruction or their salvation?
Neither.
Very well. Let us look at the other side of the coin. I have followed your journey and watched as you blithely unlocked secrets that have been sealed and forbidden for thousands of years. The path you have been treading is open to only one being. You don't know what you are, do you?
I have been many things. If you find me ignorant, enlighten me.
What's the point? This world is beyond redemption. Let the human cattle have it.
I would expect better than meek capitulation from you.
Centuries of persecution have taught me well. 500 years ago, our race was nearly exterminated by the fanatical crusades of the Seraphan. And now the same sick drama unfolds again. In merely a decade, Mobius's cutthroat citizen army has nearly accomplished what the Seraphan could not.
What am I to make of these secrets I've uncovered, then? The depictions of the winged race, the Pillars, and the Reaver.
Fairy tales, boy. The delusions of an ancient culture clinging to hope long after the world had discarded them. Their bloodline trickled away, until only one of the ancients remained, sustained solely by obligation and his unfaltering faith in the old prophecies. But you see, even if you are who you appear to be, it no longer matters. You're simply too late. Janos Audron, the Reaver Guardian, the last of the ancients, and my maker was murdered by the Seraphan nearly 5 centuries ago. He alone would have the answers you seek. I'm afraid, my friend, that you and all of us are out of luck.
I had no less reason to trust Vorador than anyone else I had met. In fact, the ancient vampire was the most forthright being I had encountered thus far. If Janos Audrin was the key to all this, then I would find him, and Mobius's time-streaming device would provide me passage. But first, I had to find a way back into the stronghold. Show yourself, Kain.
Here, Raziel. Everything is decided here. You cannot comprehend the magnitude, the rapture and the tragedy of this moment. And yet you must, if Nosgoth is to be dragged from the wreckage of its damnation.
I understand only this, Kain. That you and Mobius have impelled me to this moment simply means I can trust neither of you. I don't know who's pulling the strings, but it no longer matters, because I'm cutting them. I set my own course from here.
If it were only that simple.
Your fatalism is tiresome, Kain.
And profoundly ingrained, Raziel. You must understand, our presence here doesn't alter history. You and I meet here because we are compelled to. We have always met here. History is irredeemable. Drop a stone into a rushing river. The current simply courses around it and flows on as if the obstruction were never there. You and I are pebbles, Raziel, and have even less hope of disrupting the time stream. The continuum of history is simply too strong, too resilient. Except, then how do we explain William here? The beloved boy king turned tyrant. In my youth, I witnessed William's rise to power and his transformation into the nemesis who laid waste to Nosgoth.
Keep your distance, Kain.
Years later, I stumble upon a chance to journey back in history, unaware that the entire affair has been carefully orchestrated by Mobius. In my wisdom, I seize this opportunity to murder the young king before he can ravage Nosgoth, and thereby provide the catalyst Mobius needs to ignite a genocidal war against our race.
I warn you, no further.
This one reckless act unravels the skein of history. The nemesis never becomes the nemesis. William dies a martyred saint. I, the vampire assassin, become the author of my own species' extinction, and Mobius profits from it all. I destroyed a tyrant only to create one far worse. But how can it be so? How, if history is immutable? The answer is here in this room, Raziel. Mobius propelled William and me together, but ensured first that we were both armed with the Soul Reaver. The Reaver is the key. Two incarnations of the blade meet in time and space. A paradox is created, a temporal distortion powerful enough to derail history.
Is this your sorcery?
Not mine, Raziel. Yours. You have nothing to fear from me, Raziel. You hold all the cards.
Then perhaps I should test your sincerity. If what you say is true, you should be terrified. I could kill you here and now.
And so you do, Raziel.
What's happening?
We're hurtling towards our destinies, Raziel. What you feel is the pull of history rushing to meet us. This is where history and destiny collide. If you truly believe in free will, Raziel, now is the time to prove it. Kill me now, and we both become pawns of history, dragged down the path of an artificial destiny. I was ordained to assume the role of balanced guardian in Nosgoth, while you were destined to be its savior. But the map of my fate was redrawn by Mobius, and so in turn was yours. This is madness! Fight it, Raziel. This moment does not have to be an ending. It can become a prelude. I can't. You can, Raziel. Look inside and see that it is so. You have the power to reshape our inevitable futures.
Poor William.
What is this? History. A pause, a paradox, Raziel. Even now, the time stream strains to divert itself, finding its old course blocked by your refusal to destroy me. The future is reshuffling itself to accommodate your monumental decision. This is where we restore ourselves, Raziel, and reclaim our intended destinies. It may yet be possible for me to assume my role as balanced guardian and return the pillars to their rightful inheritors.
To the vampires. And this is the destiny you have urged me to discover. I don't know what game you and Mobius are playing, Kain, but I refuse to be your pawn. Unlike you, I still revere whatever shred of humanity I've managed to preserve. You will not use me as the instrument of your messianic delusions.
Very well, Raziel. I'll not ask you to trust me. Your truths are for you to discover alone.
Humble words for one who presumes to teach me a lesson at every turn.
And continue your journey and learn your own lessons, Raziel. Remember, Mobius led you here, but you walk away unfettered. A champion of free will and conqueror of false histories. There is much more for you to unearth, if you have the heart for the truth and the will to see it.
Ah, yes. I like that look on your face, Mobius. You really don't know what to do now, do you, old man? And I suspect things aren't progressing quite as you'd hoped. You're not used to the fly turning to confront you in your web, are you?
Kain's devious influence has poisoned your mind, Raziel. Now you see betrayal everywhere, even in your closest allies.
We were never allies, Mobius. Conspirators, perhaps. Briefly.
Why did you not kill Kain when you had the chance? He was at your mercy.
Precisely. I had a choice, and I chose mercy. I understand now how you've tried to manipulate all of history for your own personal gain. But now all your little schemes are whirling in ruin around you, aren't they? I'm setting my own path from here, Mobius. I intend to discover the truth behind all of this.
But you condemn us all with this impetuous act.
Hardly impetuous. It took all the will I could muster. Has my refusal to kill Kain reshuffled your carefully stacked deck of cards?
You really think that you're exercising your free will, Raziel? You're simply Kain's servant.
I do not serve Kain. I merely did not kill him.
Raziel, do not forget your purpose here. You are destined to be the savior of Nosgoth.
Oh, I'm sick of hearing that particular phrase. As for saving Nosgoth, so far I see precious little reason to bother. And I'll choose my own purpose from here on out, time streamer. Right now, I choose to manipulate you for a change. Go. In there.
What are you doing?
Calm down, Mobius. You're a cunning serpent. You'll piece it together, I imagine. This era is of no further use to me. You will operate this device to provide me passage. I want to see the world in a simpler time, before the Sarafan began their crusade.
And what about Kain? You're leaving your core behind.
You kill him if it's so damned important.
You need only touch the two poles of the switch, and the device will transport you. But I urge you to reconsider.
You've lost your powers of persuasion, old man. Rot here and forget me. Even as I emerged from that infernal time-streaming chamber, I suspected treachery. The stronghold was vacant, derelict, abandoned. If I had any doubts about the era I now occupied, this grotesque tableau certainly eliminated them. For here was Mobius, long since murdered by Kain, lionized and beatified as the martyred leader of his bloodthirsty crusade. And if I required further evidence, I needed only to behold the gruesome trophy Mobius held aloft. A severed head of Vorador. The final triumphant kill of Mobius's cutthroat mob. His execution marked the annihilation of the vampires. Far from channeling me into Nozgot's past, Mobius had propelled me over a century into its ghastly future. These were the pillars so familiar to my blighted eyes. But now that I had begun to learn their true significance, I regarded the pillars' destruction with a new, enlightened sense of horror. And I questioned now whether Kain's simple refusal, his mere ambition, could truly have caused such devastation. I felt that some darker influence was at work here.
Raziel, the failed assassin. You had Kain at your mercy, but lacked the courage to fulfill the act. And now you see the wasteland wrought by the tyrant's hand, by his selfish decision to preserve his own life, even when it meant sacrificing the whole world. This is the fate of Nozgoth, as long as Kain remains alive.
An ironic condemnation, given this guilty sin. One would think you'd torn down the pillars single-handedly. What are you trying to obliterate as you drag your loathsome body through this chamber? And why, as Nosgoth descends into madness and misery, do you appear to thrive? Things in this world, I am learning, are rarely what they seem. You, apparently, are no exception.
I am the engine of life, the source of Nosgoth's very existence. I am the hub of the wheel, the origin of all life, the devourer of death.
Or maybe you're just hungry. Could it be as simple as that? Wouldn't that be poetic irony? The great adversary of the vampires turns out to be the biggest parasite of them all.
Do not test my patience, Raziel. I made you, and I will unmake you if I become so inclined.
As your agent, I am beyond death.
There are fates worse than death, Raziel.
Oh, I see you now as you truly are. A cancer. A spooling parasite burrowed deep in the heart of this world.
Go now. Play out your pitiful rebellion and take your place among the destroyed, the used, and the damned. But know this. You are mine for eternity. You have always been, and will always be, my soul Reaver.
I had no choice but to act purely on blind faith. There was no way to tell what error this device was tuned to, and I had neither the knowledge nor the means to set the machine myself. I hesitated only briefly. Then, throwing the switch, I hurled myself into oblivion and relinquished my will to the hand of fate. Beyond all hope and against all probability, it seemed that the device had unerringly delivered me to the era I sought. For these were Sarafan banners, and these vampires apparently the victims of their crusade. For all the butchery of Mobius's crusade, this massacre was somehow more chilling. The killing fields of the Sarafan betrayed a kind of orderly ruthlessness, the cold-blooded righteousness of the true believer. After my long journey, I finally stood on the threshold of enlightenment. For here was Janos Audrin's mountain retreat, intact and unblemished. The upheaval that would one day topple this ancient edifice had not yet occurred.
Janos Audrin? It is heartening after all these years to hear my name spoken without contempt. Raziel? My child, what have they done to you?
I have been dragged through hell and back. All it seems to reach this moment. But I don't yet know why.
For thousands of years I have waited, alone, here, losing faith. At the time of the binding, 9 guardians were called to serve the pillars, and I was summoned as the 10th guardian, the keeper of the Reaver, the weapon of our salvation. Over time, our race died out, until I alone remained, sustained only by my obligation to you and by my guardianship of the blade.
Mankind seems to have brought you only torment and grief. You must hate them.
They fear what they don't understand, and they despise what they fear. But no, I do not hate them.
Vorador does.
He has suffered much. He cannot forgive them.
Should they be forgiven?
They don't understand what they're doing. They are simply unenlightened and vulnerable to manipulation. Raziel, your role in this world's destiny is more crucial and more benevolent than you've allowed yourself to believe. Your journey will not be easy. Dark powers are allied against you. But I think you already know this. You appear to have been cruelly tested. The binding must be secured, Raziel. The pillars are the lock.
And the Reaver is the key.
Yes. The most formidable weapon ever forged by our swordsmiths. I fear you have been followed. You must save yourself, Raziel. Janos! No!
My surroundings whirled sickeningly, and I found myself transported safely away from the ambush to an adjacent chamber. Janos had delivered me from the Sarafan, selflessly forfeiting his own safety to preserve my life. And now I feared that my newfound mentor would be slaughtered by the very crusaders I had so recently revered.
Look at his black heart. How it still beats.
The fiend intends to bury us alive. Raziel, we must get out of here.
Remember the sword!
Forgive me. I'm sorry. I failed you.
No, Razia. Perhaps this was my true purpose. Simply to save your life this once.
While I have taken yours.
Embrace your destiny, Razia. You must reclaim the Reaver. It was forged for you and you alone. Without it, there is no hope.
As I backed away from Janos's body, I was overwhelmed by a sense of self-loathing so deep I could barely contain it. In that instant, I rejected all that I ever was, and embraced the role Janos had safeguarded for me so patiently throughout the centuries. I knew then what I had to do, the task for which I was uniquely prepared.
We've been expecting you, little Razia.
So, these demonic pests were not merely the product of Nosgotha's corrupted future, for here they were, hurtling back over 5 centuries to pursue me. These creatures, I suspected, were minions of the unseen forces that had hoped to control me. This was the tangible expression of their displeasure. These demons were unleashed as the penalty for my disobedience.
You have failed me, Raziel.
I wonder, Old One, did you truly resurrect me, or were you simply there when I awakened from my torment in the abyss? I suspect you found me merely convenient, dropped in your lair by Kain, indestructible for some reason, a durable and gullible tool for you to manipulate. This one thing I readily admit. I have been used by others time and again, but always I seem to stray from their path. What is it about me, demon, that makes me such an unreliable instrument? Why do I survive one trial after another, on and on, in an endless succession of humiliating deaths and resurrections? It seems there is much more to my destiny and my history than I know. Perhaps more than you know as well.
He thinks he can change his destiny. What a fool.
Suddenly and inexplicably, I discovered the Reaver suspiciously laid across my path.
So, Raziel, here we are, finally. You have no choice but to confront me now. And I am not so foolish as I've let you believe.
You knew I would lead the Seraphim to Janos, you vile bastard. You've been orchestrating my every move. My destiny is an amusement to you.
It was fun while it lasted.
I admit that I've underestimated you to this point, Mobius. It's a mistake I won't repeat.
Wrong again, Raziel. Now, Malik, bolt the door.
Using his staff to disable my Wraithblade, Mobius effectively disarmed me, leaving me with only one choice of weapon. And yet I confess, it was not the lack of options, but blind rage that made me take up the Reaver. In my fury, it felt as though my hand had acted of its own will. And now, that same hand clutched the hilt with unyielding strength, and I felt a constrained tingling, a remote but palpable sense of longing, as the disabled Wraithblade tried vainly to embrace its physical twin. So, Vampire, here we are. You've destroyed my brethren, and now you've come for me. You'll find I'm not such easy prey. I don't want to kill you, but I will if I must. Return the heart to me, and we can end this now. So, you've come to avenge that filthy parasite and reclaim his foul heart. You're a righteous fiend, aren't you? Apparently I am. No, Vampire. This is where it ends, but you won't be leaving this room. Now, let's finish this. I'll make it mercifully quick. As you did for Janos? No, that beast had eluded us for far too long. It would have been a shame to end him too quickly. It's ironic, really. The great Janos Ordrin turned out to be no challenge at all. Thanks to you. Did you hear his cowardly screams when I tore that black heart out of his carcass? I renounce you. And so it ends. My history comes full circle. Sensing its twin, the Wraithblade uncoiled itself from me, and instead wound lovingly around its former self. I felt its grip loosen, and as the blade left me, its absence chilled me more than its presence ever had. A foreboding sense of emptiness and loss stole over me, and a terrible revelation gathered like a storm at the edge of my awareness. With all other foes exhausted, the conjoined blades turned themselves on me, and I realized, finally, the Reaver was never forged to be a soul-stealing weapon. The ravenous, soul-devouring entity trapped in the blade was, and always had been, me. This is why the blade was destroyed when Kain tried to strike me down. The Reaver could not devour its own soul. The paradox shattered the blade. So, this was my terrible destiny. To play out this purgatorial cycle for all eternity.
I could not bear it. Despair overwhelmed me. You.
Are you enjoying this, Kain? Don't fight it, Raziel. Give into it. Was this your destiny for me all along? Trust me.
I felt myself weakening, unable to hold on any longer. The Reaver was too strong. The compulsion to simply let go, too great. And then, a growing sense of vertigo and the familiar displacement. The paradoxical moment when my twin soul hovered both outside and inside the Reaver blade. This was the instant, the glimmer of temporal distortion Kain had been counting on all along. This was the edge of the coin, the minute flicker of probability upon which Kain had gambled everything.
Now you are free to reclaim your true destiny, Raziel.
Behind Kain's eyes, I could see new memories blooming and dying as history labored to reshuffle itself around this monumental obstruction. And I could see by the dawning horror on his face that perhaps we had strained history too far this time. That by trying to alter my fate, he may have introduced a fatal paradox.
My God. The Hilden. We walked right into their trap. Raziel, Janos must stay dead.
But Kain's warning was lost as I slipped into the spirit realm, too weak to maintain my physical form. And there, waiting for me as always, was the Reaver, the Wraithblade, my own soul, twinned and bound eternally to me. And I realized that I could never escape my terrible destiny. I had merely postponed it. History abhors a paradox.
Given the choice, whether to rule a corrupt and failing empire, or to challenge the fates for another throw, a better throw against one's destiny, what was a king to do? But does one ever truly have a choice? One can only match, move by move, the machinations of fate, and thus defy the tyrannous stars. And so I returned to the sanctuary of my enemy, the fortress of the Sarafan Brotherhood, deemed impossible for any man to penetrate. impossible for any man. Deep within these walls my prey awaited. Mobius, the time streamer, deceiver and eternal gamester, using living beings as his pawns.
In the end, we'd rooted out an entire nest of the fiends.
But we had swept that area already.
Not well enough, but no matter. We purged every last one of that brood with fire, and their souls now rest.
Lord Mobius will be pleased.
It was time for Mobius to answer a few questions. I hoped for his sake to find him in a forthcoming mood.
Yes, I understand. It will be done. The stage is set. You needn't linger in the shadows, Kain. It has been a long time, hasn't it?
No banter, Mobius. You know why I'm here.
Yes, Raziel. You sought to introduce your own pawn into this game, and now he's been swept from the board.
By your hand, I suspect. Where is he?
Perhaps you should ask, when? How humiliating it must be for you to come begging at my doorstep for answers.
Enough wordplay.
Don't threaten me, Kain. You see, I have the upper hand. How remarkable that the great Kain should succumb to the scepter's power like any common vampire. Still so arrogant after all these years, thinking you've devised some brilliant plan. You know nothing. You have read the signs, but missed their meaning. You believe you are that myth of vampire prophecy, the scion of balance, and that Raziel holds the key to fulfilling your destiny. But your messianic delusions have blinded you to Raziel's true nature. You have no idea what you've unleashed. There was a time when you might have heeded wise counsel when it was offered. Now, your vanity has made you witless. You will have to learn the truth for yourself. You'll be needing this. Your strength will return after I have departed. But by then, you will have more urgent concerns than pursuing me. Perhaps, when we next meet, you will have learned a little humility.
These strange creatures seem to manifest from the very shadows.
Surrender, Raziel. Abandon this petty rebellion. It was I who made you. Your life had played out, and in my grace I spared you. You are my reaper of souls. You have no other purpose, no higher destiny. Just this. Accept your calling, Raziel. Let go of these vain hopes. Relinquish your will and feed.
No.
What do you profit from this defiance?
There's some grim satisfaction in infuriating you.
My patience is eternal, Raziel. How many eons can you bear to languish here? The wheel of fate must turn. All are redeemed in the cleansing agony of birth, death, and rebirth. This is the engine of life, the purifying rhythm of the universe to which all souls are irresistibly drawn. Yours is a necessary and noble function, Raziel.
Enough of your sermonizing. Are you trying to bore me into submission? Why must this game go on? We both know what you are. You're no better than the vampires you so despise. A voracious parasite, cloaking its appetite in a shroud of righteousness. I refuse to do your will.
I can see into your heart, Raziel. It is not your will, but cowardice that keeps you here.
How so?
You know what fate awaits you when you leave the underworld. That phantom weapon you bear is a constant reminder, isn't it? The sword is waiting for you out there somewhere, and you tarry so as not to meet it.
I could not deny it. As long as I lingered here, defying my captor, I was able to postpone what I feared was my inevitable doom. To become the ravenous spirit imprisoned in the Reaver blade. But that sentence was no worse than the stalemate I now endured. Better to face one's destiny than cower from it.
Harvester of souls, I created you. And to this function, my angel of death, you will return.
Enough. Yes, I submit.
Very good. Indulge your hunger. Yes, embrace your calling, Raziel. You will find that just as defiance has its price, so obedience has its rewards.
And submission is not always what it seems. Below me swirled an ominous-looking mist. I knew that if I fell, it would mean my peril.
Do you believe your worthiness is so easily proved? Your way is sealed until you have offered further evidence of your obedience.
I must feed you before I depart this place.
You must feed yourself, Raziel.
The wheel must turn.
Ah, now you understand. You may go, but remember, you are mine. You can no more escape from me than you can escape yourself. Where do you think you're going, little soul? You can't escape. Raziel. Clever, Raziel. Clever indeed. I have endured your game long enough.
Clearly my escape had not been anticipated, or my benevolent master would not have expended such efforts to prevent me from going. And if my departure displeased him, then that was a victory, however small, for me. As I emerged, I was granted a vision of what I would become if I did not escape the spectral realm. For these too were agents of my master, hunting the lost souls that struggled to escape the endless twilight of the underworld. My master's plan for me was ominously clear. Like these mindless hunters, I existed only to fuel him with souls, siphoning their energy to feed him and his wheel of fate. I had to break these bonds, while I still possessed my own will.
This artifact seemed as though it was made for that unusual lock. Now the door could be opened.
Here you are at last. I see you found a fragment of the balance emblem. This will be of even further use to you, if you can find the other three. Now, shall we?
Yes. Let us continue our conversation, but on a somewhat different footing. Now, what do you have to tell me, Mobius?
You cannot kill me. We both know that this is not how or when I die.
Death is not the only possible outcome.
Your delusions of fulfilling the vampire's foolish prophecies have badly distorted your judgment. And Raziel is not what you think.
You dare imagine what I think.
So, you prevented Raziel's soul from entering the Reaver. Do you believe for a moment that by this you have averted your fate? Or his? Or that of Nosgoth itself? Your manipulations are pathetic.
Yet Raziel retains his free will, and that's what frightens you, isn't it, Mobius? You cannot see his path, and so you cannot control it.
And neither can you. Yes, Raziel is shrouded from us, but we see the ripples of his potential actions, and every path he might choose leads to the same outcome. He will kill you, Kain. In sparing Raziel, you have written your own death sentence.
You still have not answered the question I came to ask. Where is Raziel?
He is not, in a true sense, here. Not now.
Don't try my patience, Mobius. What have you done with him?
He is contained. In time, it may be safe to release him. His destiny must be completed. He will enter the sword. But until that time, he is dangerous. Far more dangerous than you could understand.
And your incontrovertible evidence?
The answers are plain, if you know where to look. Go west of the pillars. There you will find a testament written in stone.
But stones, too, can lie. The pillars of Nosgoth stood pristine against the horizon. To the west, I would find the enlightenment Mobius felt I lacked.
She says she won't go near the place.
I tell you, the pillars are haunted.
Haunted?
I heard a woman's voice talking and moaning, and there was no one there.
How many vampires have you killed? And you can't face down one ghost?
I knew who these were. Vampire hunters, scouring the countryside, destroying what had once been my kind.
My God, what is that? A vampire or a demon?
Where?
Here.
Get him!
Quickly! No mercy.
These were Mobius's hunters, mercenaries enlisted in his crusade to exterminate the vampires. His insignia was unmistakable. But this meant I'd been captive in the underworld for centuries. I had lost 500 years. Then I knew what ghost it was that haunted the pillars. Ariel, the spectre of the murdered Balance Guardian. Perhaps she could provide the answers I sought.
What is this? How do you know me?
Raziel, what are you? Why should any know your name? You are nothing.
It seemed my method of entering the physical realm was not altogether original. But where had these beings come from?
How strange to see this place long before my birth. Centuries before the corruption set in that would poison the land and put me on the treacherous path I still followed. In the future, these edifices would be condemned to darkness and decay. I would cause their fall and build my empire upon their ruins. Was it still possible that with the right knowledge, the right moves, I might one day see Nosghoth restored, the pillars pure once more? My answer, according to Mobius, lay somewhere to the west of this place. I could restore the world, perhaps, but never again could I give Nosghoth back her innocence. The mist that shrouded this lake miraculously now cleared away, revealing an ancient citadel. So Mobius had not lied. Or perhaps this was simply another of the time streamer's illusions, meant to slow my true endeavor.
The vampire hunters, brazen as they were, feared to walk these paths. I knew one spirit haunted this place. Perhaps there were others as well. Once again, I beheld the pillars of Nosghoth, crumbling in decay now, following the corruption of the Circle. Here I would find Ariel, the spectre of the murdered Balance Guardian, and the last pure, undefiled member of the Guardian Circle. Bound here upon her death, she was doomed to haunt these pillars until her successor fulfilled his terrible duty, and balance was restored.
What manner of creature approaches?
I know you well, Ariel, though you do not yet know me.
I have no time for riddles, strange one.
All you have is time. I have come to seek your guidance.
I counsel only one man, and you are not he. But you will know him soon. The contagion of your kind is coming to an end.
My kind? What exactly do you think I am?
Your name shall remain unspoken, as decreed by our ancestors. You serve the one who so brutally took my life and set this tragedy in motion. But even now, hope is at work. Balance will be restored, and your kind will be expelled forever.
You have pinned your hopes on Kain. He will disappoint you.
What can you know of Kain?
More than you could ever fathom.
He will do what he must when the time comes.
By choosing his own death. A sacrifice for the world. You don't know Kain very well.
I know what he is called to do. My faith sustains me.
Is it faith or fear? You know that if Kain refuses the sacrifice, you will never leave here. And you begin to suspect.
I will not hear your poison, fiend.
Grant me the answers I require, and I will leave you to your pathetic delusions.
Ask, then.
I seek the vampire Vorador.
To kill him, perhaps, or to join him in death. But for Kain, he is the last of his kind. Mobius's mob has done its work.
My reasons are my own.
His refuge lies in the heart of the Black Forest. And may you molder there together until the end comes.
With the Reaver endowed with the elemental power of air, the way to Vorador's refuge lay open at last. If the old vampire still lived, he alone could tell me how to escape the terrible destiny charted for me when the Reaver was forged.
And so I arrived at the citadel of my vampire ancestors, long abandoned since their extinction eons ago. Perhaps it still held the wisdom of its creators. Here, Mobius said I would find proof that Raziel was not what I thought he was, or hoped he would be. But in sending me here, Mobius had done me an unexpected, or perhaps an unwitting service. For it was my destiny, not Raziel's, my role as scion of balance, whose secrets I was here to discover. Here, no doubt, was the evidence Mobius wished me to have. For the vampires had prophesied not one, but two champions. One destined to be Nosgoth's redeemer, the other its destroyer. The vampire's hero wielded the Reaver, forged for this very purpose. His opponent was clearly the champion of their adversaries, the Hilden, and brandished a flaming sword. The foretold outcome was unambiguous. The vampire hero would fall. This door was clearly significant. The answers I sought surely lay within. But to unlock the chamber, the balance emblem had to be fully restored.
Nestled deep in the Black Forest, Vorador had once held court over a private kingdom, as decadent as it was depraved. Now all was still. I hoped I had not arrived too late.
So, our wretched little savior returns. Come to join the last pathetic battle of the vampire race? But on which side, I wonder?
I've not come to fight you, Vorador.
You don't know why you're here.
I know this much, that you are the author of my fate, and as such, only you can rewrite it.
You give me too much credit.
You forged the Reaver. I have seen the evidence.
I was its maker, yes?
Then you know its purpose.
No. Only the scraps of prophecy my master shared with me.
And do these scraps explain why you would forge a weapon to imprison your savior?
Ah, well then. It seems we have our answer. You've chosen your path.
I have chosen nothing. I've been deceived at every turn. You seem to know what I am. Tell me.
I thought I did once. But now all the prophecies have failed. The pillars are corrupted. I am the last of my kind, and when Mobius's hunters find me, it will have all been for nothing.
You've forgotten about Kain.
Ah, yes, Kain. I fear he shoulders a greater burden than he realizes. I cannot help you, even if I was inclined to. I crafted the Reaver blade, but only at the behest of my sire, Janos Audron. What sorcery he and the others laid upon the sword afterward, I cannot say.
Janos tried to give me the Reaver before he died. He said that it was forged for me. But what did he mean? As my weapon or my prison?
Perhaps you should ask him yourself.
Janos is here.
In a manner of speaking. The greatest of us all, the father of our race. The Seraphim tore the heart from his living body 5 centuries ago.
But there's no sign of decay. How is this possible after all these years?
Somewhere, the heart still beats, and while it does, the body will remain preserved. If his heart could be restored, Janos might yet be raised.
And you haven't tried to recover it in all these years?
Many times, but our enemies hid the heart too well. It was taken as a trophy to Avernus Cathedral centuries ago, where they christened it the Heart of Darkness. Believing that it embodies the essence of our dark gift, they hid the heart away lest it fall into the wrong hands. Our hands. Redeem yourself. You may be our last hope. Perhaps you alone can find the heart, if it is meant to be found. If Janos can be resurrected, he will have all the answers you require. This key will open your way to Avernus. But be advised, there are dark sorceries at work in the cathedral. You must be on your guard. Avernus is in flames, and with it, our hopes may evaporate.
How can I find the heart in the midst of such chaos?
You must act quickly. But beware, an ancient evil dwells within, long unspoken among our kind. Undoubtedly, this is the source of the corruption that infects the circle. If you are to succeed, you must resist its influence.
For my ancient ancestors, the dark gift was clearly a curse, damning them to a kind of spiritual purgatory. But why were they compelled to seal this chamber so securely? Perhaps the lock was not meant to keep intruders out, but to imprison something within.
Kain, scion of balance, savior of Nosgota.
What is this?
Your arrival is foretold. The fates have willed it.
Is that so?
I am the oracle of your ancestors. I can provide the answers you require. You needn't speak. I know your mind. You seek knowledge of your creature Raziel. This I can offer, if you will look. He has found the body of Janos Ordrum. He journeys now to Avernus Cathedral to seek the heart of darkness. You know what this means.
And why would I trust your prophecies?
These events are already written just as you feared. But there is still time. He can be stopped.
If Avernus is in flames, Raziel is 5 centuries beyond my reach.
I may aid you in this regard as well. This portal will transport you in time to the very hour that Raziel arrives in Avernus. This task is yours to carry out, since it was you who made him what he is. When you are ready, you may pass through.
I knew, of course, that this oracle was not to be trusted. But in the end, what choice did I have? This peculiar sensation was familiar to me, and the chamber did indeed appear altered by time. In this regard, at least, the oracle seemed to have been truthful.
I have delivered you faithfully to the very hour you desire. You know what must be done, Kain. There is only one way to prevent Raziel from doing great harm.
He is not my enemy.
But you are his.
From this vantage point, I could see the city of Avernus in flames. The oracle had indeed brought me to the time it promised. It might also be true, then, that Raziel was already there, seeking the heart of darkness. If so, he had to be stopped. I could not allow Janos to be raised.
Somewhere in this great cathedral, the heart of darkness lay concealed. The city outside was in chaos, and the cathedral would not be immune for long. During such times, buried secrets were often suddenly revealed, or lost forever. As the handsome coffin hides the putrefying corpse within, the great cathedral of Avernus seemed to hold its own secrets, hidden in the catacombs beneath its vaulted chambers. Was this the source of the corruption that infected Nosgota? Vorador had hinted at something more. History is written by the victors. Beneath the vaults of Avernus, I discovered scenes that told a familiar story, but from a very different point of view. This was the work of the enemy race, and revealed what the vampire histories had conveniently omitted. How the noble vampires, God-ridden and righteous, had started the wars that would destroy both races, victor and vanquished alike. Their adversaries opposed the vampires' god and refused to submit to the wheel of fate. For this, they were banished. I now understood the poetic irony of their curse, and my resemblance to the vampire's enemy no longer seemed so accidental.
Come to me, my undead son. Make haste to the pillars. The stage is set for the grand finale. You will have your vengeance.
Mortanius!
So, you have come out into the open at last. The binding must be fragile indeed. But you will find you are too late.
What am I too late for this time?
No, no, not now. You are too late for the victory you sought. I have beaten you after all.
You have mistaken my identity.
Have I? You forget who schooled me in the ancient prophecies. This vessel speaks truly. You are indeed overdue, but it no longer matters in the least. With or without you, we will prevail.
So, I finally meet the unspoken. And here it is, nestled in the heart of the circle itself. Ironic.
Poetic justice. To topple the foundations of the pillars from within. We shall have our revenge in full measure and for all time. This one has little strength left. One must not break him. Your kind does not like to lose.
I seek the heart of darkness.
Now you think of that. But as I told you, you are too late. The heart has served its function. I have used it to set prophecy in motion. I created the champion foretold by my masters, who is destined to be your destroyer. The Scion of Balance will save Nosgoth. The Pillars will return to vampire guardianship as intended, and your race will be cast down forever.
Kain. You use the heart of darkness to create Kain.
How else? I refused at first to believe the ancient myths. I thought the vampires were simply a plague upon mankind, a pestilence we had to control. But they were right, and we were wrong to overthrow them, Mobius and I. We didn't understand what it was the Pillars were holding back. I have made my atonement. I will continue to make it to the end, which will be soon now. But I know Kain will set it right. He will restore balance. And none too soon. My enemy is growing stronger.
Where is the heart of darkness now? Did you destroy it?
You still don't understand, do you? You cannot make use of it as long as Kain guards it with his life.
Kain has it. It is in Kain.
Check and mate. This deed will redeem first me and then all Nosgoth. It must. This one grows weak, but we will soon have a stronger vessel. The long-awaited hour approaches. Our release is at hand. I must finish it now.
Kain, why is this no surprise?
Because our destinies run together, Raziel, like two rivers that have met and can never be distinct again. At your every fatal turn, you'll find me.
And the free will you said was mine. What has become of that?
You still have it. And that has everything to do with my presence here now.
It was your machinations that set my destiny in motion. The coin you tossed has struck the earth. Now you must abide by its outcome.
The coin is still turning, Raziel. To reach the resolution we both can live with, that will best serve our futures, Janos Audron must not be raised.
Because you do not wish it. Is my free will to be exercised only when it accords with your whim?
There is much more at stake in this than you know.
Yes, and it is Janos who has the answers I desire.
You must trust me, Raziel. Our intentions, for Nosgoth, for our futures, are not so diverse.
I must trust you, or
I've not come here to threaten you, Raziel.
You say that while you hold in your hand the instrument of my doom?
I saved you from the Reaver once. I have no intention of imprisoning you within the blade.
At least not until the moment it serves your plans to do so.
You are not the only one at risk. I may carry the instrument of your destruction, but I too have taken a chance in coming here. Or haven't you realized? You bear the only weapon that can kill me.
Then you know what I am, and who you are.
I believe I do.
And still you think you can move me about like your pawn? Think again, Kain.
Take heed, Raziel.
Why? If we are who we are, then are we not destined to fight to the death, to decide the fate of Nosgota?
Don't be a fool! I will not fight you!
And that will be the prophesied hero's battle? I win because you will not fight me? The mighty Kain, scion of balance, would-be savior of Nosgota, surrenders before the final battle even begins!
If this will make you see reason... Doesn't matter, Raziel. Listen to me. You must understand that every creature is bound to one predestined path. We are all shackled.
To the wheel of fate. Believe me, I know that even better than you do.
All but one. Because of your remaking, you are the one unbound creature. The one among us all that truly has free will. You have a choice, Raziel.
Which I'm sure I must make at your direction. Your pawn has reached the end of the board, Kain, and now my powers may even surpass yours. How ironic if the creature that you made should prove your own undoing. Now, we finish this, once and for all. Kain was gone. The madness of this place had somehow fueled my rage, and as it subsided, I felt no elation, no sense of victory. Only a calm certainty that we had once again walked blindly into our enemy's trap. I couldn't be sure whether Kain had truly intended to destroy me. And now it appeared I would never know. In my absence, the estate had been overrun by Mobius's soldiers. I hoped that they had not yet found the entrance to the crypt or discovered the body of Janos. Of Vorador, there was no sign.
Raziel, the conquering hero. I understand we ought to offer congratulations. Kain, at last, is dead.
I suppose you expect similar congratulations on the death of Vorador. Or has he eluded you?
We have him, but not without a considerable price in blood.
That will have pleased him.
Let it sustain him until his head is off, and every vampire in Nosgota at last is dead.
And will that knowledge sustain you? You too are going to your death.
For a true servant of the one God, death is never bitter. I will go, again at peace with the knowledge that I have played my small part in our master's plans. Kain is at last destroyed, and you have carried out the deed. Which hero do you think you are now? The vampire savior, or the other one? Have you realized yet that it didn't matter to us which one either of you thought you were, so long as the result was the same in the end? And now, Kain is dead. Really, I cannot thank you enough.
So, this has all been arranged every step of the way. And Kain thought I truly had free will.
Oh, but you do. And there's the greatest triumph of all. To have compelled the one player who could choose into doing exactly what we required. Well done, faithful servant. And now, I have an execution to see to.
This relic had come at so high a cost. My blood offering for the answers I sought from this enigmatic corpse. It was the price of my freedom, for which Kain had paid with his life. Had I journeyed so far and forsaken so much, only to have it end like this?
I remember. Raziel, the heir of prophecy. You came for the Reaver just before the Seraphim found me.
You've been entombed here for 5 centuries. Your murderers are long dead.
500 years. And Vorador?
Also dead. Your bloodline is erased. The age of the vampires is coming to an end.
Then we must waste no time.
I'm not who you think I am, nor is this a benevolent act. I have questions that apparently you alone can answer.
Raziel, there are forces in this world that will strive to deceive you and pervert your destiny. But you must believe your arrival foretells the salvation of the vampire race.
Why then would the vampires devise a weapon to consume and imprison their savior?
No, that cannot be.
While the blade yet exists, I am drawn inexorably toward my doom. It was you who bound me to this fate. Only you can release me.
Raziel, you have been misled. You are ordained by prophecy to wield the Reaver.
And so I do, though not quite as you'd envisioned.
Redeemer and Destroyer,
Is it possible? Did I misread all the signs? It seems your destiny is more labyrinthian than I had imagined. You must trust me, Raziel. We may have very little time. I will convey you to the place where your answers lie.
Where have you brought me?
We are within the ancient citadel of the vampire race, long ago defiled and abandoned. This fortress endured through centuries of war against our great enemy.
The Hilden?
Yes. From this chamber, we witnessed the summoning of the pillars and the banishment of our adversaries from the land. This is a dire omen. The binding is in peril. The hour of prophecy is at hand.
It's too late. The pillars are already damned.
As long as a single one of us stands, there is still hope. The pillars must not remain under human guardianship. They are not competent to serve.
Why then did you allow the pillars to fall into human hands?
Raziel, there is no time.
I want answers. The world can end this instant for all I care.
Very well. The Hilden cursed us as they fell, afflicting our race with a predatory bloodthirst. But with this transformation came our enemy's true revenge. Immortality.
They liberated you from the wheel of fate.
They imprisoned our souls in this flesh, expelling us from the purifying cycle of death and rebirth.
And yet you pass the curse on.
It was a necessary evil. Our immortality banished us from God's grace. He turned his sight from us and fell silent. Many took their own lives, unable to bear the separation from our God.
Not you, though.
Curse or blessing, it is the price we pay to keep the Hilden banished from the land. To sustain the binding, we had to preserve our bloodline, and so we passed the dark gift to the human successors of our fallen guardians. They rebelled, inevitably, refusing the curse and seizing the pillars as their own. And so we come to our present dilemma. While mankind governs the pillars, the binding decays. The Hilden strain against the barriers of their prison, scratching to gain a foothold back into this world.
And what does all this mean to me?
We stand at the threshold of a new eon, Raziel, and you are the fulcrum upon which our destiny turns. Beneath this room lies our innermost sanctum. The outer chamber has been opened. It appears events are already in motion. This token is the key to the mysteries you seek. I cannot accompany you. You must face this trial alone. If you prevail, you will have your answers.
And if I fail the test?
Then you will not return.
I should have known I'd find you here.
Here and everywhere, now and always. I am the wheel and its turning. I am the circle of life and death.
And I am beginning to think the vampires committed suicide only to escape your voice.
Do not forego my favor with your impertinence, Raziel. You have finally fulfilled your purpose. I am pleased.
What are you trying to obliterate here, then? What is it about me that has you so afraid?
Your fate is trivial, Raziel. It was Kain's destiny that mattered all along.
balance guardian to itself for this final purpose.
Ariel? You?
Yes, Raziel. Yet I am much more than I was. The veil is lifted from my sight. My spirit, united with the souls of my predecessors, is drawn here now for the final baptism of the blade. To restore balance, the sword must be rendered pure by spirit. Release me, Raziel. The Soul Reaver has the power. Release us all. For this we were called. You have done well, Raziel. But there is one more trial for you to bear. You must unite what has been set asunder. Only then will the Scion of Balance be armed for his true endeavor.
The Reaver now blazed with purifying flame. But far from being enlightened, I found myself entangled in an even greater web of mysteries. What had Janos expected me to learn? And what of Ariel's cryptic message? If the sword was endowed for the Scion of Balance, for Kain, and he was now dead, what hope remained? I needed to find Janos, and soon. I dreaded to think what these ominous rumblings might portend. Janos, what is this?
The binding is failing. All is lost.
We had arrived at that cataclysmic moment when a younger Kain faced his fateful dilemma as Balance Guardian. Choosing self-preservation over sacrifice, he doomed the pillars to eternal ruin.
Raziel, there may yet be hope. There is one who will be called. You must seek the Scion of Balance. Dear God!
Raziel, we meet again. You have played your part flawlessly. It is gratifying to attain both freedom and vengeance in a single stroke.
No! You cannot!
This one is strong. Good. My next move requires a more durable host. Mortals are such fragile vessels. Willing or not, you have provided the instrument of our victory.
I wouldn't celebrate just yet.
You pathetic creature. You haven't got a clue. The seduction of the Circle and possession of Mortanius, Ariel's murder, the corruption and collapse of the Pillars, all orchestrated as a prelude to this moment. We sought an incorruptible vessel, and you provided one. We required the blood of our ancient enemy, and you delivered Janos Audron, having first been lured to the heart of darkness. Best of all, you murdered the Scion of Balance to get it. We've already won.
Raziel, you must not allow them to carry out their plan. Kill me, and you end it now.
Suicidal like the rest of them. Know your place, Raziel. The true hero plays his role and then steps aside. You deluded ghoul. Do you so wish to die a martyr for the vampire's lost cause?
You're not leaving this chamber. I will destroy Janos if I have to.
Very well then. I'll indulge you.
Raziel, finish it before he returns.
You should have listened to me.
Now it is finished, and thus a new epic has its beginning.
Do you see? However far you stray, you will always return to me. Surrender, Raziel.
Never!
Your efforts are wasted, Raziel. That weapon you bear, however endowed, remains only a wraith blade. It cannot touch me.
I will not be your prisoner.
You have no choice. Your task is fulfilled. Kain has been cleared from the board, and this chamber made ready for my more malleable servants. There is nothing more for you to do.
I refuse to bend my will.
It has always been my will you satisfy, never your own.
You parasitic fraud. You are forced to imprison me because I possess free will.
You possess nothing. As you are undying, your soul cannot be returned to the wheel. But it may console you to abide here in eternity with me. Mobius, my good servant, I call you to the place of our first meeting. Return to me here.
I awoke to find myself in a shadowy realm. A disquieting stillness lay where my heart had been, the heart that had belonged to Janus Audrun all along. How was it possible that I still lived?
You are still very full, vampire. That will go first. This realm will render you hideous. You will go mad, and will not know it.
What is this place?
Do you not think of this place every day, vampire? Or are we truly forgotten? This is the exile into which we were driven. But soon now, soon we will be free. We will be free.
I felt strongly drawn, compelled even, not to linger here, but to go to the vampire citadel at once. I knew what ominous hour this was in Nozgot's history. For here was the event that had shaped my entire existence. I had cast my fate, refusing the sacrifice, damning the pillars, and founding my doomed empire upon their ruins. I would raise the Sarafan priests to be my closest lieutenants, and would one day cast the strongest of them, my servant Raziel, into the abyss, dealing one last hand to play against fate. But in the end, had it made any difference? Had I misread the signs, as Mobius told me? In my arrogance, had I missed my cast at destiny?
The Hilden are merely an inconvenient consequence. They will be dealt with in time. It is a small price to pay for Kain's death.
You're a bit premature.
Kain!
Is there a crack in your omniscience after all, Mobius? First, your omniscience, and now your powers. You're slipping badly.
This is not possible.
The part of me that staff affected is no longer in its place. But you already knew that, didn't you? I always was considered heartless. And now, Mobius, it is time.
To kill me? Again? Your only solution for every problem. Kill.
This is not a debate. You see, this time, you have nothing that I want.
You think this will matter? I serve one who has power over life and death.
Then go to him.
I am his obedient, his devoted servant. Soon, all pain will fade, and my master will bring me life once more. Master, my apologies. A momentary oversight. Somehow Kain still lives, and has unexpectedly dispatched me. Make use of your good servant, and... Go to your master, then. I release you to the wheel. Oh, God, no. Do you see it now? The monster that you served. Is this what you imagined when you worshipped it? No! And in that knowledge, go and feed it. I release you.
Your petty actions are irrelevant, Raziel. Mobius was a good servant, but he was of no further use. His long life had run its course. You see, even when you rebel, you are doing my will.
Perhaps. But something has changed, hasn't it? You didn't foresee Kain's return.
You have both traced your paths along the wheel. This is where the journey ends.
You haven't the means to kill either one of us.
Ah, but you can be stopped. And you will come to understand how oblivion can be a mercy. You and Kain will spend eternity buried here together, praying for the merciful release of a death that will never come.
But I was armed with newfound knowledge, and it burned within me.
Redeemer and Destroyer.
Mobius had never seen his master until the Soul Reaver purified his sight. Even the ancient vampires had no idea what it was they so righteously worshipped.
You must unite what has been set asunder.
All the conflict and strife throughout history, all the fear and hatred, served but one purpose: to keep my master's wheel turning. All souls were prisoners, trapped in the pointless round of existence, leading distracted, blunted lives until death returned them, always in ignorance, to the wheel.
The coin is still turning.
But what hope had there been? One cannot fight the unseen.
Only then will the Scion of Balance be armed for his true endeavor.
Despair, Raziel. There is no escape.
It was then I knew what I had to do. I alone could end this.
Kain.
Do you so enjoy death?
Yes.
Raziel. No! Yes. This is how...
No! Raziel!
The Soul Reaver, pure of all corruption. This is what it is for. This is what I am for. The two become one. Both Soul Reavers together. And the scion of balance is healed. And I am not your enemy, not your destroyer. I am, as before, your right hand, your sword.
No, Raziel, this can't be the way.
And now you will see the true enemy.
Raziel. And it was then I saw.
So, I am revealed to you at last.
What in hell?
I am the origin of life, the devourer of death. I am the hub of the wheel, the purifying cycle to which all souls must be drawn.
Had I condemned Raziel to this nightmare when I cast him into the abyss?
You may ponder the futility of your ambitions as you spend a deathless eternity beneath a mountain of rubble. You and your Soul Reaver will go equally mad as the eons pass. The Citadel of the Apostles will become your living tomb.
Your words are heartening. For you would not fear us unless we could truly do you harm.
No! You are nothing!
False God. This is the end. The final turn of your wheel.
I will bury you. Your sacrifice has been made in vain, Raziel. Get up! This defiance is pointless. Engine of life itself. The wheel will turn, the plague of your kind will be purged from this world, and on that inevitable day, your wretched, stagnant soul will finally be mine.
In the meantime, you best burrow deep. masks had fallen away. The strings of the puppets had become visible, and the hands of the prime mover exposed. Most ironic of all was the last gift that Raziel had given me. More powerful than the sword that now held his soul, more acute even than the vision his sacrifice had accorded me. The first bitter taste of that terrible illusion.